Hey, it's Eline. I'm an artist, illustrator, interior designer, and overall impulse project person. If you have seen some of my older videos, you will probably have seen this intro. I created this intro 5 years ago during my classes in Corona time, therefore we are remaking this intro. So here's the plan. I want to have a same vibe for intro, but I do want to show a little bit more what I do in my videos, such as painting. My old intro, it looks like I'm walking through a garden. This time I want it to look like I am in my house, mostly because all of my projects I do in my house. And then for the main thing I wanted to add is adding some traditional pieces to it. So I am a traditional artist. I like to paint with acrylics, sometimes oil, sometimes watercolors. And I wanted to add those traditional elements into the intro. Best example for inspiration I could say is Studio Ghibli. So in the Studio Ghibli movies, I noticed that all of the backgrounds, all of the static images that wouldn't move were drawn physically, or it looks like they drew it physically. And then all of the animated parts were 2D moving images. So you could really see a difference between traditional and digital. I have been working on the animation part yesterday. So let's go ahead and see how far I am with that. When starting illustrating this, I already knew how I kind of wanted it to look like. I wanted the windows to look like the windows that I have in my apartments. One big window in the middle and two small windows on the sides. And then for the animation part itself, I wanted the doors to open up to the outside. I used the software Procreate on my tablet, and I did it with onion layer skins, or the animation program that Procreate has. I also decided to add a little puppet of my cat in one of the windows as a little nod to her existence, and then my boyfriend came up with the fun plan to make her pop out of the window and tilt her head. For myself, I wanted to, as I've said before, show me painting. I drew over this reference of a woman painting, and then I just made it into myself with some clothing that I have. I wanted myself to turn to the camera as the doors went open. I had a little bit of trouble in this because I haven't drawn any humans in the last maybe a year or so. But yeah, drawing her and looking the same in every single shot was a big challenge. So you see me flipping through that the whole time in this short while. After figuring out the turn, I decided to color in myself so I could see myself in the animation. I decided to use the colors of my puppets so that they would match throughout the whole videos. So yeah, that's kind of it. I had to color each single frame in. I made 8 frames in total, so I had to color myself in 8 times as well. And now for the first test shot. Now that I have a rough sketch of my animation, I'm going on to traditional mediums. Therefore, we need to print out this sketch. I use the old trick of putting charcoal on the back of your painting and just drawing it over on the canvas. I used a canvas board because that
I just didn't want to paint a humongous painting. I just wanted to keep it small and also so that you could see the brush strokes. And there we have the sketch transferred over to the canvas. I used acrylic paints for this, purely because I use it quite often lately, and I went in with a pink background. I usually do this, I water the pink down so that it's not a blank canvas. Obviously, it already had some orange spots, I don't know where those came from. But yeah, I decided to go in and first paint some tiles. This was entirely a waste of time, I'm going to tell you this just in advance, because all these tiles will not be seen in the final result. I know that Studio Ghibli probably uses gouache as a background. It looks a lot softer for a painting, but I do love my contrast and my bold colors in my paintings. Therefore, I just use my own style instead of going with the Studio Ghibli style, because it is my channel and it kind of needs to, well, match each other. I think looking back at the painting process that I was fine here, but then eventually I tried adding too much contrast, and you're gonna see me struggle in this in the editing stage.
So I finished the painting part of today's video. I just took a picture on my phone and I'm going to send it over to my tablet, which I usually work on. So I'm just gonna take the most clear one and then put it in Procreate, and then we go on from there.
I ended up removing the background that wasn't painted, and then I defined the window panes just with a matching color so that they will be a bit thicker and a bit more clean instead of having ragged edges. And then I just imported the background and foreground. I had to use 2 layers, one for behind the animated windows, which was the background layer, and then the layers that were in front so that they would like hide the curtains a little bit was the foreground. So you can't really see it in this shot, but basically this background is made out of 2 pieces. So one back layer, which is the full illustration, and then the front layer, which is the full illustration, but then a big chunk on the middle, which was, well, cut out. And then one other thing that I was very much struggling with was the background. Was I going to make it look like my interior? Would that look too busy? I thought it would. I tried blurring it. I tried first putting in some decoration in front of the windows because I do love my decor. So yeah, I am going to flip through a lot of background options. I didn't know if I wanted to have it a dark color or a light color, so I literally tried out every single color, which one looked best and more cohesive. I didn't want it to be green because then it will be a very green ocean, and then eventually I settled on a very light blue. Obviously, during the whole animation progress, I got a little visit of my cat. At this point, I realized I really did not like the contrast. I looked back at the old animation and I saw that it had a lot of flat colors, and I thought this was just too dark. So I went in with my paintbrushes my digital paintbrushes, and I decided to go on all over the illustration. So I made it all one color, so that I wouldn't have yellow tints and blue tints and everything. And then I also extended the border, and then I expanded the painting basically, but I also changed the lighting so that it would be a little bit more cohesive, because it was way too much contrast for my liking. I tried keeping the traditional details of the paintings as much as possible and not blurring them out in any way. This did prove to be very difficult. And then we have test shot 2, or actually 20. And then we went on to the final details. I stamped and cloned a lot of the extended background, but you could easily see that it was not cohesive. So I decided to go over it with the gouache paintbrush on Procreate and draw each individual leaf in a little bit of a blurry texture, also putting over a multiply layer of a texture of a painting canvas, and then eventually we're done. And that left us with the final animation. Of course, we're not done yet. We still need to add some sound design. I did not film any of the process, but I used my basic rules. I used a sound design of a door, an old door opening, which I pitched up. I used a purring sound of a cat, and I used some bird sounds. And then for the opening and closing, I used a camera click. That's basically it. I tried not to put any defining music under it, because I do like using different music all the time, depending on the vibe of the video. So that's what I left open, and then I also decided to do the closing shot. And with that all done, here is the final result. And with that all done, I am very glad that this is over. It took me, I think, about a month and a half to make this video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.